Hey, gorgeous. Are you ready to turn the light switch of your soul on and live an authentic, radiant, and unapologetically pleasure-filled life? I'm Penny Vandersloot. I empower women like you in your midlife who are struggling to love your body and prioritize pleasure, play, and passion, and invite you to discover your powerful, untapped, sensual, sexual, and feminine energy so that you can feel confident, free, and in love with your body and life. I'm a pleasure activist, an adventurer, feminine empowerment coach, a conscious creative, and connector. I'm a wife. I have 2 teens, and I'm host of this podcast, Turned On, Wild, Free, and Sexy in Your Midlife. Today, I'm really excited to share this space with Juliet Schaub, who's the creatrix of the realm of the divine Huntress School of Sensuality. She is passionate about guiding women in their sensual journey and rediscovering their feminine power. That's why we love each other. And in her programs, Body in Power, she focuses on the power of movement, dance, and radical self-acceptance. Welcome, Juliet.
Thank you, Penny. So excited to be here.
So,
Love this.
Juliet, I would love you to introduce yourself with your stage name too. You're also known as.
I'm also known as Madam Juju. Yes,
I
probably
love it.
more known as Madam Juju than Juliet, but Juliet's my birth name, and I do love that because it's very whimsical and romantic. But Madam Juju is a whole nother
Persona. Yeah.
sensual embodied woman.
I,
She is fearless, she is powerful, and she has no problem sending her energy across oceans.
well,
So,
she's coming from the other side of the planet to where I am, so I can feel her energy. So, Madam Juju, Juliet, let us know as listeners, what is turned on living for you? Why do you think it's important women in their midlife feel turned on?
so important. Such a great question. I guess a little bit of my story to understand why I'm so passionate about this. And as a young woman, we're all conditioned into believing our worth is in who we marry and how many children you have, or how successful your children are, is a direct reflection on you and how good of a parent you are. And I was on that path. I was married, we bought a house, and then I fell off a ladder and completely severed my foot off my leg. It was no longer attached. My dog brought it back and dropped it in my lap. And I was all of a sudden in a situation where my whole life completely turned upside down. It was 15 surgeries, 3 years of healing, bedridden. I completely lost the woman in me. And to top it off, my marriage fell apart. So you can imagine like how low I was, pretty low.
Oh,
Always positive. Um, but didn't know who I was anymore because I couldn't nurture my relationship because I was busy healing myself, or it was just a really, really tough time. So
understandably.
when my marriage fell apart, I decided, how do you see what are you gonna do? Your whole life is opened up. And I said, I want to perform again. So I want to learn pole and I want to become a pole star. And I sold my wedding ring and went to Key West and went to pole dance camp. And that's where it all began. And then I started teaching sensuality, empowerment, because when I first touched that pole, it became I was so free. I became feminine again. It like gave me permission to access some deeper parts of me that were dormant for a long time. And I thought I wasn't entitled to those things anymore because I'm getting older, or you're broken now. All these things, because as women, we're praised for being, and how beautiful we are, how young we stay. And I just wanted to break those conditions for women that feel trapped in, you could be trapped in a relationship, in a job, in your life, just stuck because your sensuality is stuck, because we're taught to suppress it. And I just don't want to see some women suppressed anymore. And I want women to all over the world feel beautiful at all ages, sexy, that empowered feeling that you have when you really embrace your sensuality. And that's what dance gave me. It saved my life. It brought back even stronger that it's my birthright. My sensuality is my birthright, to be free and wild and untamed. Mm.
So
And I
I'm
just want
hearing,
to share.
so I'm hearing that for you, and what you're inviting us as listeners to consider is turned on's always inside of us, and it's
Yes.
potentially laying dormant, or it hasn't been accessed. And for you, dance and pole dancing has given you access to that. So I'm wondering, for women who
Yes.
haven't got a background in dance, or who haven't had a positive experience in dance like you did in your youth, what have you noticed with women that you work with who may never have tried it? Or I think for me, there's definitely a stigma around pole dancing. That's sort of like something strippers do, or it's in a men's club.
Correct.
It's sort of
Yep.
a bit, well, it's only sexy or to
Underground.
attract a man, not for your own purpose. So yes.
Correct. Yes. This is not for the pleasure of the male gaze. This is to access your feminine power. And when I help women through that breakthrough of the stigma, or their own, like I was teaching a woman that for the first time came to pole class, and she was very masculine. She was a good little man. She was being a, but she has to be, because of her job, of her career in the corporate world, in that setting. She has to be very masculine at work to get anywhere. And then she has forgotten how to step into her feminine, and because it becomes uncomfortable, because that gets thrown to the wayside. Does that make sense? What um but if you it's movement. To me, movement is the key. And it doesn't have to be with pole. You can do it in your living room with just tapping into, washing your day away with some movement practices to really, I call it shutting my brain down in getting into my body. Because getting into my body, whether I'm on the floor and I'm just swaying around and listening to my favorite song, or if I'm rowdy and I'm just feeling like I need to shake my hair and let it all out, it's movement. And it doesn't have to be choreographed or professional, or even, it's you.
It doesn't
It's
even have to
your
look
movement.
good, because I think
Right.
from my experience with dance as a young girl, there was ballet dance or jazz ballet or some sort of class, and you would be good at it. You would learn the moves, or you would look on a stage, professional in some way, or you were being trained, instead of this free. I think my most favorite experience was creative dance, but that gets sort of shut down as you go through your teens and into adulthood. But what you're inviting women to do is to tap into movement, whatever that looks like, however that feels.
Right.
Perhaps you could
Correct.
tell us a little
It
bit
doesn't have to
about
look good.
Perhaps you could tell us a little about your school and what that involves, and speak to what movement and dance can look like.
Well, so my programs are transformational programs. Um, that's what because we go from point A to all the way to Z, depending on, I have a quick start program, which is 90 days, or a 6-month program, Body and Power, where we do movement mindset, um, behavioral, the word I'm looking for, like intention. We build intention and we bring your desire to show up for yourself, or your desire to have a better sex life, or
Mm.
your all these desires that we as women are like, I'm not going to speak my desire, because what if I don't get it? What if I hear no? And then it's just going to throw me on the edge, because I feel like everything's being taken from me. One more person takes something from me, I'm just gonna lose it.
Mhm.
Right? And this fills you back up, so you have the courage. The program, we build you into unshakable confidence, radical self-acceptance, where we take you and we give you a little toolbox, your little sensuality toolbox, to when you're not feeling so powerful or feeling so good. You've had a really busy day. Maybe you have baby puke on you and you're just cleaning up everybody else's mess and you don't feel sexy. Well, here is like, this is a place where you can wash all that away, take an hour, or, depending on the program you're going through, we have all different kinds of things. The connection, the sisterhood, being with women that understand
Mhm.
your struggles and that place, and then help you pull out of it. And we all have a soiree party and gowns and feel like women and get juiced up, and then you go back out in your life, and maybe you ask for that raise that you were too afraid to ask for, but with unshakable confidence. You deserve it, you earn it, and you're worth it.
I think what that
No,
leads into me, sorry if I don't interrupt, but
no,
just
please.
wondering that why do you, or what have you noticed is so important about our sensuality and our sexuality being expressed that then flows into other parts of our lives? So maybe we start with, what do you define as sexy? Because you've referred to it, you feel sexy when you move, and for some people that may mean different things. So can you tell us a little bit about what you think sexy is and how we can tap into that?
Yeah. Well, non-movement things like self-care makes me feel sexy when I'm taking care of myself, whether that's going to the hot springs and doing my hot cold therapy. I feel really like amazing after that, right? So feeling sexy is an inside job. It's how we speak to ourselves. It's being soft in those hard places that feels sexy. Softening,
It's really for yourself, I'm hearing too. So it's, this is a feeling that you have. It's not um a word that
an
someone would
act of
describe you.
being.
Yeah.
Correct. It's not an act of being. It it grows inside of you and then shines out of every pore, and people cannot help but be drawn to that, because they're like, ooh, what is she, what does she have? What is that? People pick up on confidence, and um but we're not always confident. Like, that doesn't mean you're always confident either. So you learn how to tap back into um that energy, that vibe, that high vibration.
So
Setting boundaries that are non-negotiable for me, those make me feel super powerful, which then I feel super sexy.
I love that you're sort of highlighting how important owning yourself, being yourself is actually the access to being sexy. So it's not a sexy lingerie or lipstick or a type of dance movement necessarily. I mean, they can definitely be something that you feel enhance it, but it's an
Those are
actual
adornments, right? I mean, and
adornment.
movement's super important for your body and your mind. But yeah, the lipstick and the clothing, those are adornments. Adorn yourself for sure. But right, it comes from within, from really giving yourself permission to not be perfect.
Yeah. And I think sexy's got complicated for women because we've been sexualized. So there's some threat that comes from getting too much unwanted attention, or even, you know, in particular ages, it's inappropriate to be sexy. So young girls are being sort of wearing the clothing that maybe people feel is inappropriate for their age. And then equally the same for older women. Women are told you shouldn't wear that, you're mutton dressed as lamb, and all this sort of thing. So it's how do we reclaim what feels right for us? Any tips?
Oh my gosh, it's so good. That's like my whole purpose. I want to solve that very same thing.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, because I have nieces that from going from young to older, because I feel like in the middle is we feel like is our prime. Like this is when you got to get a man, and you're told this is when you before it's too late, or that it goes back to not being enough and being too much, that we're constantly trying to find, you better hurry up before you're too old. Oh, you better wait because you're too young. So
Yeah.
when um so when I teach my nieces in the power, this is kind of cute. I just realized, but I'm like, with great power comes great responsibility. That's how I start out with my nieces. This is not to use against boys or other people. This is for you to nurture. I'm getting goosebumps. To nurture your feminine power. So when things are approached to you that you know are wrong, that do not feel right to you, you have the power to say no and stop it. You own your body, not anyone else.
Mm.
And the power of them knowing that they are women, that they're turning into women, that they're not being shamed, like they're not shamed of those puberty, thinking of having a boyfriend because they want to have sex now, that whole stage of going into womanhood, and they're so shut down, like you were saying. But being able to identify their own sensuality as a young woman gives them the power to say no, if that makes sense,
It's
to
almost
say,
like when
to
we
speak up,
embrace,
say I don't
yeah,
like that,
yeah, it's almost like
and
when
you're not going to treat me that way.
we allow ourselves to experience our sensuality and our sexuality, we're actually more powerful, and it's clearer to other people where our boundaries lie. So it's like if we allow
Yes,
our young girls to know what it feels like to be in their bodies and love their bodies and understand their bodies, they're more likely to make choices for
they're
themselves.
less likely to be shamed into doing things they don't want to do,
Exactly. Yeah.
and which is really important for me to pass on to them. And then for older women, I'm like, this is me. I'm 53, and I want to show older women that you don't have to adapt this ideology, that ageism, that we're aged out at 45 or 50 even. Menopause means you're like, thoughts come up saying, where's my worth? I'm not able to give children anymore. See, and I'm not married now, and nor do I have children. So there was a lot of things that came up, conditioning that came up for me, that's like, ooh, who wants me now? I'm 53. Those are so untrue. They're not correct. It's not
However, the
correct.
reality is that is something we're judged by. It's in our media and it's in, yeah. So naturally, women in this midlife do question, why, why can I, or how can I be sexy?
That's why I want to do a whole movement in modeling, dancing up until you're 100 years old. Just imagine all these women that are older, and it's like all these opportunities come up for them. You don't have to model and dance, but show the world that, wow, look, she's doing something great. I didn't know I could do something great. I kind of want to do something great. It re-inspires women to this age of wisdom, the second half of our lives, right? And just we have better boundaries. um
We also
More
have more
peace.
energy, don't we? Like there's this opportunity when we don't have that cycle in our life, the menstrual cycle that creates our focus on reproduction. This is now an opportunity for us to be more creative and more in
So
our
funny you say
power.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like that's where I'm at. I'm not in a relationship, and I'm really okay with that, right? Like I'm super happy in my life. It's peaceful, but my hormones have definitely changed because I'm definitely menopause now. I've gone a year without my period. So menopause, I'm like and I'm like, oh, my hormones are not taking over. This is freeing.
Yeah.
But other things changed. I've had to change my diet, which is thankfully I have a nutrition degree, a dietetic degree, so I can use my degree to I know what to do to, I'm not doing dairy anymore because I get bloated. And apparently that's natural. And there's not much written on information out there for women at this stage either. And we're paving the way to show women that you can still be beautiful and young and vibrant and after midlife.
So what if someone's listening and thinking, yeah, that's all well and good. You've obviously worked yourself into a place where you're comfortable, but I'm still uncomfortable. There's still aspects of my body that I'm not happy with, or my life in relationship with others. What sort of suggestions would you have for someone listening to not kind of switch off and still keep this part of their life as a possibility of creating it for themselves, particularly as you've been there, like you've gone through that?
I would definitely say finding like I don't know if a movement coach is the word I'm looking for, but like finding somebody that can help you build a practice that you can use every day, the support of other sisters, a group of women that know exactly how you're feeling and know what you're going through. That support can really pull you through some really tough constraints, right? Like maybe I want to go, because I think every woman wants to explore that. They're either just shamed down so deep they can't move, or they're just too afraid of it because of judgment, that like you were just saying, that you're also getting judged for it, you know but in a safe container, wow, with a mentor that can help you keep on track with that practice, because it takes practice, just like any new habit um or change. Yeah, and I guess the other one was, support, finding that sisterhood support.
Which I think is so important. I mean, it's definitely been a game changer for me when I found
Me too.
sisters and sought out women who were prepared to rewrite this conditioning, and then also support each other, recognizing that you don't always get that messaging outside from your other relationships, particularly ones from your past, but equally, yeah, the community we live in doesn't necessarily subscribe to this way of thinking yet. So it's like, okay, if I can at least surround myself with sisters who celebrate each other, aren't judging and comparing each other. And I guess we're definitely aligned on that being a really critical part of this part of our lives. It's foundational. It's definitely something that you can seek out.
Definitely something you can seek out. And it's like thinking of it, like, this is how I think of it, is I find my sisters and I imagine us all in a pool, lounging in our bathing suits, catching some sun rays, having a tropical cocktail or non-tropical cocktail, whatever, tea, whatever feels good to you. And you're just breathing in the moment and the energy around your sisters, and you feel protected, you feel like you belong, and you feel inspired by that. You know you're not alone, because so often we just feel like we're doing everything alone.
Which
We're
is
lone wolf.
interesting, because when you painted that picture, it sounds like delicious. But one of the things that comes up, because I've had it when I've invited women to come together in quite sensual experiences, this kind of, oh, well, it's too lovey, or it's too much like we're crossing a different boundary, a sexual boundary. And I think it's about us also understanding that you can have beautiful feminine connection and intimacy with women, and it doesn't have to mean you're in love with them, and you don't have
Or
to,
sexual.
or
Right.
sexual, or change your
Right.
relationship with any other partner. It can be,
Right.
yeah. So we've been sort of taught that that's potentially wrong or damaging, and then there's that competition between women. So I think it's a really key part of reclaiming your sexy and sensual part of your life, is really understanding women aren't there to threaten you, to challenge you. And if they are, to seek out ones that will support you in
That
it.
are more aligned,
Yeah.
right, with, right. And I think that's where better boundaries come in. um I've had friends recently that were longtime friends that I don't know if I've outgrown them or they're just, but I've had to let them go. And because my boundaries have changed, and that felt very, it was sad to let that friendship go, but it was very, I knew it was the right thing for myself, to protect myself, to, because I have this, because of mentorship that I've been going through in the last 3 years, and meeting amazing women like yourself that I've connected with now, like across the world. And now I'm thinking about going to Australia to visit everyone. Like, now I want to go to Australia
Come
and do a
down.
retreat there. But yeah, right. It's really, that's where the work comes in, is breaking those conditioned thoughts that are so deep that they think that that's just how they think, that's, this is who I am. But no, it's really, let me show you what empowering us together is like. And then you go home, and your whole life changes. But I think you're totally, it's a hard place to get people to cross over, because fear steps in. Fear of, okay, so I'll use an example of when I knew my relationship was really, like, it was not going to survive. I suggested therapy. I said, let's go to therapy together. I was terrified it was going to end my relationship, and it did.
Mm.
We went to therapy, and that was it. He was gone after that. um but it wasn't therapy that did it. It was his unwillingness to work on our marriage, and having somebody else help us put the broken pieces, figuring it out. He just was like not gonna go
Mhm.
into that. So he left instead of staying and working on it. So did therapy ruin it? No. But he wasn't open to it.
So it almost like
Um,
highlighted what needed to be attended to. Yeah.
and I think that might stop a lot of women. What if it changes too drastically and I can't? That's too scary for me. Like, how do you give women the empowerment, the power to, you know, to self trust that you will be okay and you deserve the best life you could possibly imagine, and you can have it. you
It's
have it.
definitely something I think in our midlife, because we've acquired all these experiences and we get to a point where either it feels like something needs to shift or there's some changes coming, like some freedom that comes from children growing up, or a need to change a career, or lifestyle health changes can be a catalyst. But I guess it's also recognizing that sometimes, like you've suggested, you need to let go of something in order to allow something new to come through. And
And letting go can be scary.
birthing anything has pain. And I guess, in terms of being turned on and living a sexy, sensual life, it's not going to be easy. Like, we've got to at least address that life is not about
Right.
all roses and happiness in every moment, but it feels exhilarating and you feel alive and energized because you are living what you get. You're experiencing it all and challenging it all, and I think you've sort of illustrated that it does create some cost, but there's always the benefits that come from that as well. And I think what you were saying,
Yeah.
it's all from within, like this part of ourselves that's sensual and sexy hasn't necessarily been allowed to thrive and express itself. So when you do it, that it will challenge some people. There will be people in your life who are like, that's too much. You're not like that. And so that's for you to sort of
And then you retract because you start to listen. Oh, maybe I'm too, like, oh, I better tame it down. I don't, to make them more comfortable rather than you be yourself. And it's their problem to be uncomfortable. It's not your worry for them to be comfortable. Maybe they need to be a little uncomfortable for things to change.
yeah.
Right. Mm,
And I guess we're suggesting too that there's little baby steps that you can be taking. You don't have to do anything radical and blow up your life overnight, but you can be allowing this little flame inside of you to start lighting up, and then noticing what comes up and guiding yourself to either coaches or mentors or
right.
groups of
Because things will
women.
come up. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you have that support going, okay, I'm feeling the old patterns coming in again. And my flight or flight is being triggered. Yeah, it's so amazing to have that mentorship and that support to really understand where your triggers are, even. Um, because when I started learning my triggers, I started understanding them better, bringing them into the light, understanding them better, making them ma- making them a part of me. Like, I call it sipping tea with my demons.
Yeah, not being afraid of them. And like we're saying, pain's not a bad thing. Pain's an invitation
Right.
to learn more about yourself. And by hiding it away, and often we've hidden it in our body too, which is why we feel uncomfortable moving our body, because our bodies become this dumping ground of trauma
Correct.
and discomfort, and we've numbed it out through all sorts of experiences and products and things that yeah. So Juliet, I'd love you to share maybe some tips that you have that someone listening now could even just play with and experience some sexy, sensual moments wherever they are.
Yes. You could be in a hotel room, you could be at home. I think it's really important to um, ask for some time that is your time, even if it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, half hour. As women, we feel like we don't have time. So, but asking for time is a really powerful ask. I need 5 minutes, take the kids. I need to be with myself. And you take a space. One of my favorites is smells, doing essential oils. Smells can really trigger emotions, like feel good emotions. Have you ever thought about oh, spring is here, I smell it in the air, and then all of a sudden you feel hopeful. It's a very strong smell. Seasons are changing. Um, yeah, the others are like putting on something that feels good on your skin.
Mhm.
And it could be something soft, like a big fluffy blanket, or it can be a nice silky shirt. For me, it's usually very silky robes, or um, I love vintage nightgowns. Those make me feel so beautiful. Just love, and I've imagined myself that way since I was a little girl, just flowing around in wherever I was living in my vintage nightgowns. But and my favorite is eating well too. It might seem like you've never thought of that before. You probably haven't thought of that before, but your gut health is super important for your mindset. So treating your gut health like it's your baby is like does amazing things for your mental health, your physical health, and your hormonal health as we age. So nutrition, I think, would be another, like really making that a
A
ritual.
priority. Yeah.
Yeah, I
But what
do that
I'm
with my
hearing
food now.
too with all of them are they are prioritizing yourself, so giving yourself time, introducing those senses that you love. So whether it's the flowers or the essential oils or the bath oil that you might use when you're in the bath,
The
or
chocolate, have the chocolate, ladies.
but it's giving yourself permission to put on the clothing that maybe you only ever put on special occasions because it feels good, but why not put it on in those moments and notice how it makes you feel. um yeah.
Right, and you built your hero shield where shame can't come in, judgment can't come in. You do a little practice, and you're like, okay, those things aren't. I see you, but you're not coming in here. This is for me in my body right now,
Oh, I
and
like
just
that
get
hero
juiced up.
shield. Yes,
Yes,
it's like your Wonder Woman, like put on the adornments, the clothing,
right.
the elements that allow you to feel you're in your power, and then you can take what you get after that.
Exactly. And smell. I use eucalyptus in my shower every day. Like I do a hot, and I do the eucalyptus, and then I do a little conscious intentional thinking, and then I switch it to really cold, and I end the shower really cold, and then I feel youthful and awake and
Right.
clear, and my purpose is 100% right there. It's like, woo, let's go. I, and some people will be like, I can't do the cold, and it took me time to get used to it, but now I'm like totally hooked on the hot cold therapy. It does so many wonderful things for your body, so, and your mind, so many wonderful things.
You're
And in
actually
menopause, I feel like it's helping with my, my, because I'm using the heat triggers your body into adjusting, which keeps your hypothalamus kind of in shape. And that's really important for women as we age.
interesting.
Little tidbit secret there.
Oh, really cool. I do also love ending a shower with cold, and it's interesting because I love carrying a hot water bottle around, and I love the warmth, and it makes you feel cozy and comfortable. But equally, this element of cold kind of shocks you and wakes you up. It's kind of so invigorating. And regardless of what time of year it is, I encourage you to explore that.
Absolutely. It's wonderful. I'm going to do my retreat, and that's what I'm going to have. That's going to be centered around hot cold therapy while we're performing, and see how much more alive you become, like, especially performing. It's just like we're doing self-care around the show, so, and that just raised the vibration.
Awesome. So perhaps you could share with us, how women can get involved with what you're doing, particularly if they're from the other side of the world? Like, how can people connect with you, perhaps get involved or try dance in this sort of divine Huntress school of sensuality that you have?
Yes, I would love for you to join our free private Facebook group, the realm of the divine huntress, connecting your sensuality through dance. And we can put the link here for you if you need to easy click and join. And I invite anyone who would love to come over and just check it out. And I have weekly lives where we have a little um movement mindset breakthroughs, a little half hour um, discussion, and then we dance and we really set an intention for our desires. And every Monday at 10:30 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. So you can come in, get loved up on, and it's a really wonderful. Penny's in the group, so you'll hear Penny say, "Go, girl!" I just the support's wonderful over there, and I really love building that community that women can safely come over and feel safe to discuss some things that they might not feel safe talking about in other areas of their life, and really get an understanding and that support and dance and have fun being
And I
part
love,
of.
I've tried out, you had a challenge, and I know you're going to be running those over several months, but an opportunity to try sensual dance. There was a bit of chair dancing, which I hadn't done before, but Juliet's, encouraging and it's a lot of fun. But equally, it allows you to expand your edges and try things that you wouldn't necessarily
I
normally.
love hearing that. Thank you for telling me that, because that's spot on. But like I want to encourage women to explore, not force them to be something they don't feel like they're not feeling, but it's really about tapping into our root chakra and spreading that up, and just like, ooh, I'm a phoenix now. Just
And
feel powerful.
absolutely, like this agelessness, like why can't we start now? Of course we can. Like it doesn't matter if you've
Right.
never done it before. Never tried chair dancing before, but Juliet gave me permission to do it. So if that's something you thought, hang on, I've never done it, tick it off your bucket list, have a go. And then maybe, realize that that's something you can do in your own space for yourself. You don't need partners, you don't need permission from anyone else.
All for you.
All for you. I love that. I'm excited to see if we can, build this movement globally of women reclaiming their feminine, their sensuality and sexuality, regardless of age, at all
That's
ages.
why we were brought together, Penny. I totally believe that. I love it. It makes me so happy to have met you and gotten to know you and be part of this whole movement, because I feel like I'm even more on my purpose path, because you're also on the same path and I'm not alone.
No, baby. But some of those suggestions you had for getting turned on were some of them that I've got in my 10 tips for turn on. So if you're interested in getting those, you can go to my website, pennyvandersluis.com. And then the option to sign up for those 10 tips is there, because they are things that you can be doing and weaving into your everyday. They don't necessarily require you to change everything about your life at once, but they can be woven in, and living a turned on life is amazing. It's something that we're both doing. We encourage you to do it as well. So Juliet, just as we leave and let the listeners get on with whatever it is they're doing at whatever time of day and wherever they are in the
What
world,
is it?
what's one thing you'd love women listening to know about their midlife that you just wish everyone knew?
That you can be young and sexy at all ages. At every age you can find your youth, your vibrancy, and your radiance. and live the best life that you never thought you could possibly live. That's just the ultimate, the ultimate.
And
I
it's
would
up
love
to
to see every
you,
woman shining.
isn't it? So it's up to you. I hope our conversation has inspired you, given you some ideas and inspiration. Connect with Juliet, get my 10 tips. There's plenty of options out there for you. We've both got communities.
They're great tips too. I
Yeah.
even use them.
Yeah. So thank you for listening. If you got something and you'd like to share it with people in your community, or you know someone who'd love to listen, please pass on the details of this episode to them and rate and review it so that more women can find their sexy, sensual self in midlife, feel turned on.
We're
Yeah.
here for you. Born to be wild.
On to round. Enjoy your wild, free, and sexy midlife. And we will connect with you soon.
Come back